And now, right to your host of this House of Musicians, Mr. Barry Smith.
Hey, welcome. Good evening, fine listeners, and again, welcome to this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101. We hope you enjoy the next hour with us as we do our small part to help promote musicians, bands, and venues. Gary, how are you?
I am fine, sir. How are you?
I am doing pretty darn good considering. The weather's beautiful. It doesn't look like it's going to get much colder from here on out. We could be done with winter.
And many roofs.
And let's get a lot of roofs done. Indeed. We did one yesterday. So small thing in Markham. So it's today just relaxing. Tomorrow some more repairs. But more importantly, Gary, I want to introduce to our fans, we have Mr. Steve Tustin on the show this evening. And Steve has played with, open for many of popular musicians. He has his own CD out. His band, The Small World. The Small World Band, which we're going to play a couple of tunes from. Please help me welcome, folks. Hi, Steve Tustin. How are you, buddy?
Great, Barry. How you doing, guys? How you doing, Gary?
Good, thank you.
Real honor to be on a show tonight. It's
thanks to Dan Parker. Thanks to Dan Parker for reaching out to me, reaching out to you, and letting me know that you're out there to get you on the show. So thank you for being on the show, Steve.
Yeah.
I just want to start. Yeah, man, it's good to have you here. I just want to start off by asking, like I do most artists, how you were influenced by music, my friend, when you were younger. Did you have a brother that had vinyl albums? Did your dad play music? Did your mom? So how were you influenced when you were little, and what kind of music did you grow to like when you were little?
Well, my mom always had the radio going on in the kitchen all the time. Like even when I was just a very youngster, I still can remember the days of, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius,
nice.
All that stuff. And it was always going on. My cousins were 9-10 years older than me. They were a big influence, the music at that time. And my cousin, actually Ken Wanamaker, was a bass player, guitar player, singer, songwriter, and a big influence of music in what I listened to,
Sure.
That's why I was into the older music. I started got into Elvis when I was like 6 years old, and, went through that, as well as I remember going to my cousin Linda's house when I was about probably 8 or 9, and she had the double Beatles Red album. Well,
wow.
Good thing for headphones, because I wore that record out all weekend.
Nice.
And it was just an eye opener that just went, wow. And I never forget that. I remember, the early Red album that had the greatest hits from 62 to 66. And when you're young, you don't really realize the music, how they changed. So as my cousin would get me into, the next thing I'm getting the Beatles Abbey Road album, and cool. It's like, wow, what happened? Are these the same guys?
Yeah, no kidding.
The Beatles went from A to Z, and from that, I got into all different types of music, ZZ Top and some heavier stuff that my friends were listening to, as well as really a love for Diana Ross and the Supremes, everything from Motown and that sort of thing. So it's quite a varied interest. I love all different kinds of music, and my dad always had a really good stereo system in the house. And there was a guitar kicking around. I got my first guitar when I was like 7 years old. Dabbled a little bit, but I was into hockey and dirt bikes and that sort of thing. Never really hung out with that many musician pals until I was in my late teens, and then I seen some friends playing "Knocking on Heaven's Door" around a campfire up at the lake, and I went, I've got to do this.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, and so just dabbled away at it, and had a buddy of mine that I worked with, Bernie Camiri. who showed me some things on guitar, and some friends from OPG. We ended up forming a little band called Cordova Crossing, and none of us were virtuosos, but we practiced long enough and hard enough, and we got pretty good at it, and people liked it. We did the Durham region kind of bar scene, shooters and shots, and for those who can remember the good old King Street Bar and Grill in Bowmanville that went on to Einstein's, but the Holiday Inn summer concert series, and into Toronto. We played some shows in Toronto and stuff, but it was a lot of fun. And during that time, later on, started developing into writing original music and enjoying that. And I hooked up with a couple guys, the Crosmas brothers, Jamie and Dan Crosmas. And we had a little band called the Flat Cats. And they were great musicians to play with. Ray St. Germain was on drums, and we had a lot of fun. It was really inspiring at that time, and I ended up building a studio, getting so into it, building a studio in my garage, which later on I ended up doing some work for Ed Pilling from Flood. Eddie and I became pals and did some pre-production recordings for them for their last CD to kind of get an idea of where they wanted to go, and then they went into a bigger studio that they could edit all the things that they wanted to edit. But it was really an inspiring time, and did actually the first DAT master transfers for Ed from the original DATs from Warner Brother Records, San Miedo, California, like the discography from the first album of Flood, and the second album that had Cousin Mary on it, and the whole discography. It was quite it was inspiring to listen to those songs that I had. Well, first album, unless they make 250,000 copies, going to sell, that's why a lot of these these albums were never put on disc. So Ed wanted a master copy, and since that time, now it's going back probably close to 20 years for sure. And but it was really neat to listen. I remember sitting in my studio by myself and popping in the DAT tape of Flood's first album and putting on my Sony burner and sitting back and listening to songs that I had heard as a kid, going, wow, it's been ages since I heard the entire album, but just reliving why I was such a big Flood fan and I know that you've had Greg and also Ed on your show. That was great, Barry.
Yeah, well, what great gentleman. Ed was so, I call him often. I called him on his birthday and whatnot. He's just so personable. Call him up, he answers the phone. Hey, how you doing? And just such a personable guy. So it was an honor to have him on the show. I was fortunate enough to call Ed up one day and say, I want to do a live interview with you, if that's okay. He said, sure, come on up to the house. And of course, to our surprise, he also invited Greg Godovitz. So both of them were there, which is on our YouTube channel, This House of Musicians TV. There's an hour-long episode or an hour-long interview of me and Greg, me interviewing Greg and Ed while they're playing their instruments. What I could say about those guys is they haven't lost it, man. They both still sound great when they're singing and playing. So after all these years,
I watched it, Barry, and just, oh yeah, that's the cool thing about music. You can't do that playing football or hockey, but if you still have your health, you just get more, experienced at it. It just becomes easier. And that's the wonderful thing. I know that at that time back then, I ended up setting up a few private shows and parties that we played. I played with, they had a band called No Flies on Frank, which Ed Pilling got David McCluskey on guitar. They had Michael Haskins from Glass Tiger on drums, and I forget who else they had on keyboards. But it was a great band. They did some cover tunes and then did some Flood, and I don't think they played any Gatto, but I think they might have did Cousin Mary and a few others. But that, as well as I did a few shows with Gatto and opening up for Gatto, and also then with Flood as well. And that was such a treat. It was like an honor getting to open up for the guys you had, records as a kid, right? So
yeah, you look up. Go ahead. You look up to them. You look up to them when you're younger, and you got their albums, and now you're opening up for them. How cool is that?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with that, and then I wasn't doing too much, and then we ended up forming the Small World World Band, and the first lineup was well, there's a few kind of lineups, but great pal of mine, great guitar player, Joe Zambinelli on lead guitar and Peter Dorman on bass. We had Dan Creddick on drums, and we went on. I think we had that lineup for about 3 or 4 years, and we were plugging along. We played 3 times at the Horseshoe Tavern. We headlined for 102.1 the last time, and it was really neat. And then we kind of parted ways. Things weren't happening very much, and during this time, about 2008, I was working with. Even before that, I ended up hooking up with Michael Evans. We were both working at Ontario Power Generation at Darlington, and a friend of mine said, "You got to meet this Mike Evans guy." And we hit it off instantly. Mike's a recording genius in my eyes. He's been around the music industry forever. He plays one of those guys that plays everything, and
Cool.
And he's had it in his blood forever because his dad is Gene Evans, and Gene was out on the road lead guitar player for Marvin Gaye, as well as some of the other Motown acts, a rendition of the Platters. And Gene lives actually in Toronto and still plays fantastically and sounds great. And he's such a sweetheart of a guy. And so Mike's been around it a long time. And we ended up, he sent me some tracks via the internet. And the day before going into the studio down to I think it was Beach or Annex Audio at the time, I thought I better listen to this song. So he sent the music. He says, "Steve, I can't come up with anything vocally." And I listened to the rundown of the music twice, and immediately I had something in my head. I wrote a first verse and then listened to it one more time, and I came up with a second verse and went, "Wow, okay, this is cool. I'm going to stop." And then I went down to see Mike Evans the next day and showed him what I had, and we had a beer and banged out of the bridge, and we kind of finished it off at the kitchen table. And he said, "Okay, well, get in there and lay down a vocal." So I went, "Okay." So we spent maybe the next hour me laying down some vocals of this song that we just threw together.
Uh-huh.
And from that came out one in a million, and which is kind of opened up some doors for us over the years. During that time, Mike inputted the song into a contest called Garage Band International, where, different genres, blues or rock and roll or whatever, from all around the world, people could send in to have their songs judged in this contest. Well, funny enough, one in a million, it won 7 international awards. And we ended up, my insurance agent, Bill Dowson at Everson Insurance, is a keyboard player, and he phoned me up. He said, "Steve, I'm reading about you in the Toronto Sun in the entertainment section." I, "Oh yeah, sure you are." He goes, "No, man, I am." And I went, "Oh wow, what's it say?" "Well, you better check it out." They loved it when it was a 3-song EP that Michael put out, and it was just something that we had done at the time, because it was just Mike and I working on recordings. And they liked One in a Million. They really raved about it. Said, fuzzed out guitar, glammy vocals, the essence of rock and roll. This is, if this was the only song you'd hear from these guys, you'd think they were undiscovered geniuses. But they don't like it when you change genres, because the middle song was just like a kind of a Neil Youngish folk, quiet kind of folk tune, and then the other one was a blues tune called "Was I Dreaming?" And they said, we were the one-hit wonders minus the hit. So I haven't followed up to get in touch with this guy, but we ended up in the front page of the entertainment section with that write-up in New York, Toronto, Calgary, and Winnipeg. So it was funny. And during that time, I did some acoustic shows. Open up for Barney Bentall when he came to Ontario. We did a few acoustic shows, and that was really fun. I was always a big fan of Barney Bentall's, and it was really kind of neat. And so we plugged along with that, and had this lineup of our band members, and then nothing was really happening. We just weren't doing too much. So things were kind of stagnant for a year or so. I mean, we're still playing, but nothing moving forward. And then one day, Alan Cross picked up the song "One in a Million," and he contacted Mike Evans, who was working heavily with the Toronto indie music scene, and said, what's this song? What are you guys doing? You got a band? Oh yeah, we're gonna, and I want to put it on our blog and kind of promote it. And so Mike called me up and said, Steve, we better do something. And that at that time, we were wanting to change up, and we introduced John McLeod into the band, playing lead guitar. So there's Mike. Then Mike Evans took over bass solely, and also on top of that, Damian Jacobs was in drums and got into the production as far as producing the new songs that we did. So then we started rehearsing, and that lineup now has transformed into what we have now, the Small World Band. And currently we're on our John's mixing the second album that we've all recorded, finished recording, and hopefully it's going to be getting a release soon. And we were fortunate to have a dear friend of ours that just put his magic on it as well, Eric Landier on keys. And Eric's a very, very talented musician, songwriter, singer, keyboard player. He played with Shania Twain when she got famous, and I think he played with Johnny Reed, but he has his own stuff as well. And we're very fortunate to have him and put his magic to the album, all the songs on the album. And one other friend we had was we have Paul Irvine playing flute on one of the new songs on the album. Mm-hmm. And Paul's a fantastic musician, songwriter, but sax player and flute player, and entertainment paralegal as well. He works for Sanderson Entertainment Law. And so, a lot of these guys are friends of mine, like Irvine and Paul Sanderson. I know through my cousin Ken Wanamaker and Frank Watt. And it's funny how it's a small world, man. Because there you go. You've D Long from Clat 2 is was Frank and Ken's music partner for a number of years, and they still collaborate to this day, which is really kind of neat. So where we're kind of at now is mixing this second album, hopefully having a release somewhere someday when things open up in this different world we're living in. Possibly some shows down in the States if things open up. I've been blessed to have some music friends down in the States that I met through Ronnie Hawkins and a few other people that I know. But definitely, first and foremost, I want to thank a dear friend of ours, Dan Parker, for hooking us up, Barry, and bringing to the forefront your radio show. And Dan's always been such a great promoter of music in the Durham region and GTA. Many years ago, he got us lined up for us to perform regularly at the Tartan Tavern, which was a staple in Oshawa's music scene for many years, which I remember seeing Mike O'Neill when I was a teenager. I used to sneak in, actually, before I was able to drink. I think I was like 18, maybe a year younger, but I had a bit of a beard I could grow back then, so they let me in. But I remember seeing some of the great artists that played at the Tartan, and Mike O'Neill being one of them. And, it's funny, a couple of years ago, I was asked to perform on Belmont Lake for a friend of mine, John DeShane, for his summer party. And there was probably 300 people there, maybe quite a few. And it wasn't the Small World Band. It was Joe Zambo and Damian Jacobs on drums, and Dalton Bain Dalton is Scott Bain's son. They live up off Highway 7 just outside of Peterborough. Scott is a drummer, and Dalton is a guitar player, also bass player, really talented guy. So Joe Zambo, so we put a little band together, playing some covers and having some fun. And at that particular party, who had known John since they were kids because of the Belmont Lake, Mike O'Neill was there. I'm like, wow, hey, Mike, how's it going? So he ends up, I said, you got to get up on stage and play a couple songs with us. So he cranked up some tunes with us. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, he was having his birthday party and had the entire band of Wednesday up at his cottage on his dock. And we got invited to see that. And that was really inspiring, you know, and they cranked up the entire catalog of Wednesday tunes and they were killing it. It was really something. Yeah. So I'll never forget that. I'm like, wow, pretty small world. That's for sure.
Well, we had Mike O'Neill on the show. What a great guy. I stay in contact with him. And not just Mike, his son, Chris. What a fabulous singer-songwriter Chris is as well. So absolutely enjoyed both of their company on the show. And I can't wait to get out and see Mike when he gets going again and gets live. He's just an amazing guy. So now I know I took two songs off your CD here. I took two songs off your CD, buddy. It's a Small World, but I didn't pick One in a Million. So what I just did while you were talking to the audience out there, what I just did is I ripped One in a Million off your CD and sent it to Gary because you were talking about One in a Million and that it did pretty good for you. I'm going to play that instead. So I think Gary has it now. Gary, did you download it, my friend?
Yeah, I got it. All set to go.
Awesome, buddy. So that's what we're going to do, my friend, is let's go ahead and play that because I know you already talked a bit about it off your CD, One in a Million. You said it did pretty good for you guys. You won a few awards and nominated for some awards. So that's amazing, buddy. So let me, no worries, pal. Let's play this song and then we'll come back and you can talk about it a little more. Folks, I have, let's see here. It's a Small World. I have this. One second. Sorry, I'm just getting confused. Sorry, folks. I have Steve Tustin on the show. I just was looking for your CD cover, Steve. My bad.
It's a Small World band.
It's a Small World band. The CD's called It's a Small World, released in 2018. Steve Tustin is your man tonight on the show. This is his song, One in a Million. We're going to hear it right now, right here on this House of Musicians Radio on Reality Radio 101.
The way you look, I feel like it from both sides. No matter what you're in my mind.
Hey, welcome back, folks. I have Steve Tustin on the show this evening from the Small World Band. We just heard One in a Million. Steve, where'd you record that, man? And I love the fact that your music is 70s. It's not classic rock, but it's that 70s rockish kind of. Listen to your whole CD, and I just love that style. But explain to me where you recorded One in a Million and how it came to be.
Thanks, man. Well, actually, the music itself, because it was a co-write, Mike Evans and I, Mike had all the music together for that particular song. And funny enough, one of the best where he had it set up was I did the vocals in his bathroom. And
that's cool.
For those of us who know, you can get some really nice reverb and vocal sounds out of a bathroom. You
sure can.
One of them homemade vocal booths. And it was one of those things, Barry, that I thought, gee, Mike, maybe we should learn this song first, or maybe I should learn the song before, oh, no, man, we got it. And I'm like, oh, geez, I don't think I would have released it, but what he put together, when I listened back, going, wow, because there's no auto. Yeah, and who am I to say, right? And it's one of those things that we don't believe in auto tune. There's no auto tune on my vocals or any of that stuff that we do. If you can't play it, well, you can't sing it, we shouldn't be doing it. And it really has evolved because I'm very fortunate that the three guys in my band, Mike Evans, Damian Jacobs, and John McLeod, all three fellows are extremely well versed in recording, doing professional recording. They've been at it since the conception of digital. But funny enough, how we've gone back because of John McLeod. The next album and the albums that we're going to record from now on, we've gone back to tape, Barry, 16-track tape. And there is a warmth and a bandwidth. And I was a little skeptical because, you have to have the machines set up perfectly for them to really work well. Well, man, painstakingly enough, they've worked their way through it. And what we have is remarkable in my eyes. I listen to it and going, oh, wow, I never, it's just got a big sound, a big warmth that I don't think you can get through digital. And I think we've pretty well had a thumbs up going, okay, we're not going back to digital anymore. So right now the tapes we recorded in Damien's studio, in our studio in Scarborough, and John has taken the tapes and he's now mixing. We're mixing at his home studio. And John McLeod, forgive me, I should remember, but John, about 10 years ago, he took the summer off work and was asked to record a reggae band, which he recorded and produced. And I should know their name. I'll have to get it back to you. But funny enough, he got a Juno nomination from the band that he produced. And when I listen back to the recordings and where we're at, and we've done everything that's on this album, we did all live off the floor bed tracks, no click tracks. We're all playing in the studio the drums are all mic'd, our amps are mic'd, and we'll get to when we'd run through a song and we'd get to a take where we went, oh, that felt pretty good. We'd go back and listen, and if we had to do a little punch in and fix something up, we did. And I'm really, really excited about it, and look forward to releasing it, and everybody can hear where we're at. And it's a really bona fide effort from all of us. This album, it's a real cohesive bunch of songs that we've put together, and I'm really proud of it. Whereas the first album was at times different stages and different times that we've put those songs together, and I'm really proud of it. But really looking forward to everybody hearing the next new album that we have coming out called Analog, and it will be released on vinyl as well. So, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I'm a vinyl collector, so I'll certainly have to get my hands on one of those, of course, signed. Now, Steve, yeah. I know you played with Ed Pilling, Frank Russell, Gatto, Barney Bentall, Rick Emmett. Talk to me a bit about when you played with Rick Emmett. Now, I just saw Rick Emmett recently on a video playing his acoustic. Man, this guy is getting better. He's singing a song on his acoustic on an online YouTube video, and I was just blown away, man. So tell me about what it was like with Rick.
Oh, you know what? I'm a singer-songwriter schmuck. Rick Emmett is a virtuoso guitar player in the highest order and great songwriter and such a cool, humble guy. And
the vocals, like his voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'd like to thank Rick Wharton for, lining us up for that one. And Rick's up in Pembroke. He runs the theater up there as well, but he's been managing Rick for a number of years after he left Triumph. But yeah, my friend Andrew Stewart had a TV pilot show, and they had a fundraiser, kind of a little private bash in Whitby at one of the clubs. I forget. I can't even remember. I don't even think they're maybe there now, but it was in 2008. I believe that we did that show, and we opened up. Mike Evans and I. We just, we banged out a few tunes and had a few friends come out, and then Dave Dunlop and Rick Emmett hopped on stage, and then look out. That's all I can say. But it was a real treat. He's a music legend, and I've always been a big Triumph fan. But what a guitar! What a couple fantastic musicians and singers, and Dave and Rick together are quite a team. I'll tell you that. So
for sure, Steve, absolutely. Now tell me, I know it's a bit of an interesting name, the Small World Band. Tell me how you came up with that name for your band, brother.
Well, it's just, what do they call it? 6 degrees of separation, I think, or something like that. But it's funny how, at first Mike Evans had heard from the A&R guys, Small World Band. It was the original idea. And then somebody had taken it. And then they had mentioned to Mike Evans that, it's too Disney. It's a small world. And I said, okay, well, what do you want us to say? It's a small FN world. And Chuck Beal, who was mentoring us at the time, Chuck Beal from the Poppers, he said, Steve, if you have anything that has that F word in it, you're not going to get any radio play. So, and I just decided I'm not going to change the name. You can call yourselves the whatever. If you're no good, you're no good. So we just kept forward with it. And since that particular time, Mike has come around going, Stevie, you're right, man. Cause it's pretty crazy how the connections, look at my cousin and Frank Watt is like my big brother tied in with, D and, all those guys, there's quite a music scene coming out of Toronto back then from those guys. That's where Paul Sanderson and Irvine, Paul Irvine played sax on Gatto's first album. And he also went on to play sax with, at that time, I'm terrible with names at times. Who did I wear? I wear my sunglasses.
So that's Corey Hart.
Corey Hart. Paul
Corey
Irvine's
Hart.
on big album, and toured with him. And then he went on to play with Ronnie. It was just about maybe 5 years ago. Like often on the YouTube, unforeseen stuff pops up. Well, here's Paul playing with Ronnie and the Hawks and the band down at the Silverdome in I think it was 1989 with Ronnie. I'm like, and there was 3 horn players. I'm, oh, there's Irvine playing with Ronnie. You know, I up until that time, I'd never seen that or you know, heard about it. But it's funny going, wow, it's a small world. And you know, funny enough, how it I never knew he played for Ronnie, but funny, been so fortunate over the years, becoming very good friends with Ronnie and his family and stuff like that, and playing a lot of his parties. It's been quite a ride. That's for sure.
Good for you, bud.
Yeah. And like I said, we played, our band, Small World Band, played Ronnie's last bash that he had at Stony Lake on September 17th, 2017. And as you know, I sent you the footage of Ronnie's last performance. And Damian Jacobs is putting, we're putting the video together. We had, they had the Jim Cuddy Band with Chris Christopherson, the Partland Brothers, Robbie Lane, the Dreamboats, the Weber Brothers, J.D. Bixby, our band. There was a John Till from Janis Joplin's Full Tilt Boogie Band, the guitar player. He was there. Dwayne English was there. It was pretty cool. There's helicopters on the front lawn. And Henry Les filmed the whole day, as well as we had 4 cameras going on the stages. And my guys professionally recorded it all. And so we're just getting around finally to pulling out all the footage that Henry gave us and want to get this particular video finished. And I was just actually talking to Wanda and Ronnie about that and wanting to see that if we raise any money towards, if we can make any money off this video, that we'd like to send the proceeds to a good charity. And Ronnie and Wanda have been such dog lovers over the years. And Ronnie was just saying today that he wanted to do something for the Humane Society, for the shelters and stuff like that. So I thought that's a fantastic idea. And, you know, and I always felt that way, Barry, if I could raise 50 cents or $50 or $50,000 through some of my music or some of my friends helping people that need it more than we do, or, you know, for animals or whatever, it makes me feel good. Because I had the great pleasure many years ago of helping create the Rock for Kids for the March of Dimes. And I put the judging panel together, the first judging panel. We had Ed Pilling was a judge, Paul Irvine was a judge, and Rob Stevenson, who's a big-time tour manager. He'd run tours from everybody from, well, he's Poison's permanent tour manager, but the Jacksons, the Judds, Van Halen, Hall & Oates, numerous acts. And so it was a lot of fun. And then the third year we had a couple of the Canadian Idol judges, Farley Flex and the bass player guy. I forget his name. He's from Peterborough. He actually worked for Paul Sanderson. No, it's over my head. That's a number of years ago, but it was a fun time. It was a fun time, and you know, that's the cool thing about the music. It brings a camaraderie out amongst musicians. That, you know, I've met musicians for the first time we've met that like you and I. It's like bang, we hit it off right away, and that's a real special thing. That you know. Being musicians that is, you know, I think unseen in different aspects of different trades or you know, different things that people do, you know, and it's not an easy thing putting 4 or 5 or how many people together to come out with this one goal. And sometimes it can be pretty painstaking and teeth pulling, but it's nice when it comes together. Like for 4 years, the guys in our band, we get together at least once a week. We rehearse, we do our homework, and we come and we get together, we high five, we have a beer and make magic. We walk away laughing and smiling, and that's a real precious thing that's hard to do. And, that's what definitely makes me convinced that we have the right lineup. And I'm very blessed to have the guys that work with me and the different musicians that I've worked with over the years. Peter Dorman's a dear pal of mine. He toured the world for a year with Elton John and a bunch of others. Joe Zambonelli is a fantastic guitar player. He's playing quite regularly, working on stuff with Bryce Truan, the first guitar player from the Killer Dwarfs. And, there's quite a big circle of music around this area, and also Oshawa, guys, the Harem Scarum guys, Darren Smith, Doc Rock and the Wild Bunch, Doc, who has the Western Town. He can sing country, he can sing rock, and he's another talented guy that is very giving towards the music. I played many shows with J.D. Bigsby, and we did Barney Bentall out at Dockville, the private parties, and we're actually lining something up when this COVID lockdown's out of order. We're still lining up. We plan on having Chris Burkett come out with his band. He's going to perform. Eric Lambier is going to come out and play. Al Joins is going to be included. Yourself. We're lining up a little TV show, and David Baca, who lives in Newcastle. I don't know if you've ever heard of David.
Yeah, I've heard of David. I actually did his roof about 3 years ago. I know David. There you go.
World. There you go, Barry.
Dennis Brunette is David's drummer, and Dennis Brunette produced that Shag Sound 10-song cassette tape I did way back when I was a kid. So it's like you say, and you know what? The name of your band, the Small World Band, really coincides with you yourself, because I often hear you say that a lot, man. It's a small world, and it's very true. Everybody knows everybody. So.
Oh yeah. And David's come out to Dockville quite a few times, and I plan on going out to, we plan on heading over to the Chalet recording studio. David Chester, such a talent, such a great guy. They've had Rush, Bare Naked Ladies, Chantal Kreviazuk over the years. And David's going to be playing some keyboards on a couple songs that we're going to be sending to the States, down to a buddy of mine that I co-wrote a few songs with Dwayne English, who is, he was playing drums for Leon Russell and J.J. Cale when he was like 15, and then Ronnie Hawkins, and he was in a band with Charlie Daniels and John D. Levon, who's a guitar player. He's got an incredible studio just around just down the road from Dwayne's ranch, and John's in the Rockabilly Hall of Fame, the Country Music Hall of Fame. He was with J.J. Cale when he wrote Magnolia.
Oh, get out, man. J.J. Cale's one of my favorites, and I just absolutely love Magnolia, man. What a great song.
Oh, yeah. And John, like, we sat playing, I forget what, was it Magnolia? One of J.J. Cale's songs. And it was, just the notes that John is such a fantastic musician, guitar player, guitar slinger. He'd get calls from Roy Clark to come and do gigs. And, here I'm sitting in John's studio, and he's playing lead guitar for me. And we're going to do some recording together. He's such a great guy. And, possibly maybe someday we get him to come on your show. He's got some stories to tell.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay, well, look, we're getting short on time, and I haven't asked you my favorite question I like to ask artists, Steve. But first, let's play Thinking and Drinking. How does that sound? You want to play that tune?
Awesome, Barry.
Okay, folks, I have Steve Tustin on the show from the Small World Band. Obviously, from what you can hear, he knows a lot of people. He's played with a lot of people, and he's working on a second CD right now. Hopefully it comes out on vinyl, because vinyl is always very cool. But here's a song we're going to hear from the Small World Band called Thinkin' and Drinkin', right here on this House of Musicians radio show on Reality Radio 101. Hey, folks, welcome back. I had Steve Tustin on this evening's show from the Small World Band. We just heard Thinkin' and Drinkin'. Steve, tell me a crazy story that's happened to you during your music career, either on stage, off stage, maybe at Ronnie's during this big party, but just something crazy that's happened to you. It's my favorite question to ask the artist.
Well, you know what? There's a bunch of different stories I could say hanging out with Ron over the years, and it's just been a blast. But one in particular, and it involves my best buddy, my son Connor. Sometimes, as kids growing up, they met Ed Pilling, they met Frank, they know Uncle Frank, all that kind of thing. But when he got old enough and tall enough, old enough to understanding to come to the parties, okay. And I'll never forget that Frank Watt and J.P. Hovercraft and Chris Heine and those guys were Resonator. We're backing, they're dear friends of mine, and they were backing up Dave Bingham for some TV shows at the time, and working with them, and Dave's an old pal. And so the week of this annual party that Frank has at his place, and in particular, and it was the week of they named the top 100 rock songs in Canada throughout forever. And two particular songs came up from the Ugly Ducklings, Gaslight, and one of my favorite songs ever, Nothing. And I told my son Connor, you know, he's old enough then, we're going to this party. I said, but there's going to be a friend of mine that's going to, you know, he's a rock and roll star, Connor. He's going to lift the roof off this building when he starts singing. You're going to be blown away. And so sure enough, it was just an amazing party. And what happened was they finished up. Okay, you know, Dave did his set. It's like, wow, that was cool. Okay, Stevie, you're up. So I get up there and you know, Resonate, those guys are great players. You know, they make me sound like Tom Petty or whatever band I'm playing. They're right there, you know. So I get up there and I look over to the left and here's Dave Bingham. You mind if I sing along with you, Steve? Are you kidding me? And he's such a great harp player. And, you know, it was like, wow, cameras going off and my son standing next to Frank banging on the drums. I thought, this is pretty cool. The first concert that, you know, my son's old enough to party to go to, and he's getting to see this and meet Dave and you know, Dave singing next to me was just, you know, singing harmonies and the different songs that I think I did 8 or 9 songs. It was just, for me, it was one of them, somebody pinch me, please. You know, being such a big Ugly Ducklings fan. And, you know, as I was telling, Ronnie today, I said, I got a call from Barry Smith. Him and Gary put this great radio show together. They've had, you know, many different great artists on there. And Ronnie said, maybe I'll check it out and I'll get on there someday. So we'll push the hawk for a few stories, which would be cool. But he gave a big shout out to say, keep on rocking, boys, and keep the music alive. And it's guys like you that, you know, keep the dream going, especially in the times right now where it's very, very disheartening for so many artists, no live venues, you know, that the whole industry's gone for a crap. You know, I've been very blessed. A few years back, I ended up becoming friends with David Stone, who is Richie Fury's manager. Richie Fury from the Buffalo Springfield and Poco and Southern Hillman and Fury. And I got invited to the Troubadour. They just, they had Randy Meisner was there. He was the first bass player from Poco, and they just released that. I want to say, I'm looking so forward to that because Richie's such a great guy, has such a great band, and such a positive fellow. And he still sounds as good as ever. And he still works with, when I was supposed to go to I went to his birthday party down in Jersey, got invited, not last year, the year before. I was supposed to go last year, but COVID. Supposed to be going this May. I don't know. Might get postponed, but you know, I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stuff that he's put together. Just because I'm such a big music fan, I love all that kind of stuff. But when you get to meet, you know, one of your heroes or other heroes, and they're so down to earth and humble, it makes a good realization that, you know, it's such a wonderful thing. If it wasn't for music, it'd be a pretty boring life, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, man. And, you know, everybody loves Ronnie Hawkins, music ambassador of Canada. So if you ever, if he decides to come on the show and shoot the crap with me, that would be absolutely amazing. Steve Tustin, what can I say, man? It was great to have you on the show. You have some great music. We're looking forward to your new album coming out, and I'll promote it in our groups and our music groups and whatnot. And I just want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. I know we were supposed to have Colin Linden on the show, but a prior engagement came up that he had to do, so he's going to come on in May. So I thank you also for such a quick for me to call you a couple of days ago to replace Colin for tonight. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you, Gary. It's an honor. It's an honor, and I was telling Ronnie today, hey, I'm filling in for Colin. Well, that's a pretty big set of shoes. I'm just a singer-songwriter guy, but what a talent he is, and he's such a sweetheart. He's such a sweetheart. I met them years ago with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. Actually, the first show that I seen, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, they had Richard Bell playing piano for them. And I believe it was one of Richard's last shows. I think it was 2008. And they also had Barney Bentall with them, and it was really fantastic. There's
Absolutely.
such a talented bunch of guys and cool cats. That's for sure. Colin's
for sure.
Everybody.
Absolutely. And Steve, thank you again. Like I say, I'm gonna keep updating, keep everybody updated with your new music that comes out. Thank you again for being here. And to the listener, I say, thank you for being here. Always dance and sing. Let the music bring your soul to the surface for all the small world to see. Until next time, did you get that pun there, Steve? Until next time, buddy, have a shuffle your feet kind of week, and good night. You've been listening to This House of Musicians on Reality Radio 101.